Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's such a wonderful day. Welcome to the Data Science Seminar from the University of Washington eScience Institute. Joining us today is Cathi Greenwood, the Washington State's Open Data Program Manager. Cathi is passionate about making data available and usable by people who own it, the people Washington State serves. She wants people to know what data of value to them exists, what it does and what doesn't mean, how to use it, and how to publish new data responsibly and reliably. The title of her talk today is Government Open Data for Data Scientists. As usual, please use the Q&A feature of the Zoom webinar version to ask any questions you may have during the seminar, but mostly at the end of the talk. And before I hand it over to Cathi, I would like to acknowledge the Coast Salish peoples of this land, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. And with that, Cathi, I will hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicoletta. Welcome, everybody. I'm excited that you're all here. And let me just get this set up right. Okay, there we go. So I'm here to talk to you about government open data today, and got a few things. There we go. I need to figure out where to keep our picture here. Okay, so a little bit about me. I am your Open Data Program Manager. So I'm the Open Data Program Manager for the state of Washington, and I do this for you. My background is in education and IT management, program management, organizational change management, data management, and my passion is helping you get the data that you need. So I work for the government, and the government has to create data in the course of doing business. It has to study everything about the environment and the people so that it can create good policy, so that it can know what services to provide, know how well it's providing those services. So the government has a whole lot of data that I think is of interest to you. And today I'm going to help you figure out how do you find that and what is there. So the Open Data Program consists of me, the Open Data Program Manager, and Kathleen Sullivan, who is your Open Data Librarian, and she is a fellow UW graduate. So all the content that you're going to see today, the two of us worked on creating this. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about what data the government has, where do you find it, how do you tell if it's good, and where do you get it? And I'm really curious what you're hoping to get out of today. So one place where you can share that is in today's Q&A, of course. And also I've created a Google Jamboard. And so up here you see a QR code and then also a tiny URL. So you can go to either one of those and answer some questions for me on the Google Jamboard. So that I'm going to switch over to the Google Jamboard, and we've got the URL here still for that. So let me show you around a little bit. I see some people have joined. You're going to get a funny icon for you once you get here. And up here at the top are the slides. So this is how you move from one board to the next. We've got a single arrow to the right here to take you through. And I'm asking you a few questions in here. So on the second slide, I want to know, what do you hope to find out in this hour? So how do you do that? How do you answer that? You're going to click this sticky note button over here, and it brings up this sticky note, and you type in what you need. And when you hit enter, it's going to put that sticky up here, and it keeps this open so that you could create another one if you wanted to. But you can just click cancel and then move your note away so that the next person can put theirs in. And if you want to get rid of your note, you can click these three dots and delete. And I would love for somebody to create something so I can know it's all working right. Awesome, thank you. As soon as you hit enter, it creates it. There's not really a way to get a line break, so I'll just let you know that. So go ahead and fill in some stuff there. I'm going to just kind of overview what all is in here slide-wise. So we have a lot of questions in here, and on slide 11, I think it is another place for you to put questions. So you can put your questions in the Zoom Q&A, or in here, put it on slide 12. So for most of the slides, you're going to do that sticky note thing. Again, your sticky note button is over here. And you click on that, brings up a place to make a sticky note in the middle of the screen. On some of the slides, I give you a whole pile of little circles down here, and it asks you a question, and you can move the circle to wherever wherever on the screen is appropriate. So just to give you an idea of a couple of the things that we're going to use today. And I'm going to take it back to slide 2 now, see what we've got. General interest in what's available. How to find open data from the government, how to make sense of it, how do you determine if it's good data, how can you find the actual data that's used? Awesome. Super cool, thank you. What data sets can you use and how to use it responsibly? Excellent. How to find accessible data and what are the limitations they contain when using government data? Wonderful, that's a great question. I don't think I have that one in the presentation, so I will make sure I bring that up when we get to the appropriate place. What government data is open to you and how often is it updated? Great, that is in there. Are you able to find out about current labor and unemployment rates? Awesome, and what data sets are there? Okay, great. So I'll come back to this again as we go along. Feel free to jump ahead if you want to, and I'm just gonna go through the slides and keep coming back to look at this as we go along. Okay, so there's what I plan to share with you today. So government and data. So I'm curious about your answers on slides 3 and 4 for this one. This is kind of giving you an idea of, so research institutions, that's your colleges of higher education. It's places that do medical research, research on the environment. All of these research institutions, they have researchers, and those researchers create and use data. Well, the government also has researchers and data. So all the things that you might study, the government also studies those, because the government is managing everything, governing everything about your environment. So there's a big overlap in the type of research scientists and the type of data that you have. While the government currently doesn't have a job title of data scientist, there are people working as data scientists for the government. We're working on fixing that. We want to have a data scientist job title, but you know, just know that there are science jobs posted. They just won't have the name data scientist right now. So I'm going to pop over to the Jamboard and see if we've got some answers, some thoughts on slides 3 and 4. Yeah, so someone says when they hear government and data, comes to mind that the data may not be accessible. Okay, yeah, so there is some government data that is not posted in a way that's easy for you to use, for sure. The government has many, many institutions. How do you sort through all of it? Is it organized at all? That's part of my job, and that's why we have a data librarian to help get that organized, help make it so you can find it. Cool. And if you have more thoughts as the presentation goes along, please feel free to post them. This is an artifact that I'm able to save afterwards, and that I can share with other people that I work with who share data. A way I'll do that is up here. I've got these 3 dots, and I can download it as a PDF and just save this artifact. So I'd love to do that. The gap between data being available and data actually being accessible and meaningful. Yeah. Data as tools of gentrification and colonization. Yes. We actually have one person that I know of at the state whose job title is Data Democratization Manager. So there's a focus on data equity and data decolonization. There are people at the state aware of that and working to make it happen. So thank you. Would each data set have a definitions dictionary? Yes, I will show you where that is for some of our data. Unaccessible or just a gap? Yeah, great. Keep stuff coming. Thank you. I'm going to slide over to 4 now. Okay, so we've got a lot of people working with natural resources and the environment and culture and community. Great. So the government has data on things in every square here, and I've got a couple that aren't, that nothing's filled in on, but awesome. I love it. Thank you. Keep things coming. I love knowing that you all are out there. Okay. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to pop back over to the presentation. We'll come see what's happened again soon. All right, so where do you find government data? Well, this is just kind of an overview of where you find it. We'll look at some actual sites coming up here. So there's government data portals, and the standard name for that is the word data at the beginning, and then whatever the name of your government entity is, .gov. So data.wa, W-A, that's where you're going to find your Washington state data, data.wa.gov. For City of Seattle data, it's data.seattle.gov. Then there's a data portal for Tacoma, for Thurston County, for several different government entities. There's data.oregon.gov. So all the different states. For US data, it's just data.gov. And data.gov harvests data sets from a lot of the open data portals around the country. So you can find a lot there. I'm going to show you data.wa.gov so that you can see what additional tools that you have or what additional information you have. So a lot of it is on the data portals, but not all of it. There's a lot on agency websites as well. And I'll show you a cool way to find agencies. All right, so let's just hop on over. Oh, yeah, so slide 5. I was curious about your answers on slide 5 here. So I'm going to hop back over to the presentation and see what you think on slide 5. Where would you look for government data? Should have answered that before I gave you some answers already. Yeah, so government websites. Okay, so fill those in. I'm going to start showing you a few more things here. So one place to find government data, again, this is an example of data.governmententity.gov. So this is what data.wa.gov looks like right now. I'm going to hop over to my web browser, and I've got it open here. So this is what it looks like right now. We're in the process of remodeling, so expect it to look a little bit more welcoming in the future. But you can type in a search term right up here, or you can go to the data catalog. Those are the two main places to find data here. And you can sort by most accessed. So lots of good information in here. We're going to be working on, there's categories of data, so you can find your environment data, your labor data, and then we're working on updating tags and other information in here to make the data more findable. But this is just an example of data.wa.gov. Another option is if you're looking at geospatial data, geo.wa.gov has your geospatial data, and very often you're going to find a geo.governmententity.gov for other places. So if you know how to use your GIS tools and geospatial layers, you can find data there as well. So here's our geo portal where you can search the data. If you scroll down on here, you find the categories. So you can go to all these different categories. lots of good environmental information here that's made public as well. And then if you don't know what agency has the data that you need, this is a great place to come. You go to wa.gov/agency. So I'm going to show you that page. So I can type in here health. I want to know about health data, and this finds all of the health agencies for me. Oh, it even includes our salmon health. So we have more than one agency with health data. So this is one way to find it. Just type in the topic that you're interested in, and then the titles here link to the agency websites. Okay, taking me the wrong place. I'm gonna go back here. Okay, so finding your agencies. And then once you get to your agency website, I clicked and I didn't mean to. Once you get to your agency website, it may or may not be easy to find the data. So we're going to take a look at the ecology site. So some people were remarking that ecology and environmental data is a big thing that they use. So here we are at the Department of Ecology site. And if I'm at the home page, there's a link right up here for research and data. So I can just look around the agency's homepage, ecology.wa.gov, and I might find data right there in the menu. And they have a lot of data information here. They've got, ecology has some of the best data. They've been doing open data since 1998, I think it is, before open data was even a thing. So ecology is a great place to come to find all of their studies. There's tons of ways to search for their data. Then the next one, another agency website, we've got the Department of Health, and again, they've got data right there in the top, so you can find health statistics, healthcare, a lot of great government data at the Department of Health. Then, if you've been looking around a while and you haven't found what you're looking for, as researchers, I think you all know the value of a great librarian. So that is what we have here with our Washington State Library, is the Ask a Librarian service. So when you come to the Ask a Librarian page, if it's during their work hours, you're going to find the live chat. You're going to find an email form that you can submit, a phone number you can call, you can schedule an appointment. And if you want to go old school, you can send a letter. So lots of ways to contact the state library and ask questions about, hey, I'm trying to find data on this. Where do I find it? We do appreciate if you've done some research first, tried to find it, and then that's what we're here for, is to try to help you find things. So when you'll probably if you send questions about data, you'll probably get our state librarian, Kathleen Sullivan. So, all right. So I'm going to catch up on my slides here. Okay, and then another thing you can do is search the internet. So here's an example from Google, just looking for open data for Washington State. I might go open data Puerto Rico, open data London, wherever I'm trying to find open data, I can type in open data and that entity and get results. And then just last month, I was attending the Misinfo Day at UW, and I learned about this new thing in Google. So it's got the 3 dots there. If you click on the 3 dots, you get this about this result option, and it tells you whether or not this is it gives you some background on the site that you can use to determine if you actually want to click on it. So it's a good way to tell if this is just to research whether or not this is going to be a trustworthy source. It doesn't actually tell you whether it's a trustworthy source, but it gives you some more info. And this was created by a gentleman at your university whose name Michael Caulfield. There we go. In collaboration with Google. So that was a fun thing to find in our age of misinformation. Use your favorite browser, searching for open data on COVID, you'll find stuff. So lots of good information out there, just looking for open data, and whatever type of data you're looking for, whatever entity you're looking for, that's a good option. There's our Department of Health site again. Okay, so I'm going to pop back over to slide 5 and see if we got any more interesting answers. Yeah. Okay, and you usually go to the institute themselves or go to the government website, data.whatever.gov, as I mentioned. Okay, cool. Okay, and some people are moving ahead. Awesome, please feel free. So I've got some questions in here. Share, I'm really curious, what's a bad data set to you? What's a characteristic of a bad data set? And then the next slide asks you, what does a good data set look like? And what's just really, really bad? What's just the worst thing that you could find in a data set? And what's something that you really wish all data publishers did? So if you could spend some time filling in those 4 slides, I'd appreciate that. This is really great stuff for me to bring back to the people who publish the data and tell them, hey, this is what data scientists have said that they want or don't want in data that's published. So I appreciate everything you share. Another item on where to find government data, you really want to search widely for that data. Commit to finding equitable and fully representative data. Don't just go with the one data set that you find. Where else might there be data? Where might this data set not be comprehensive? Like, if you're looking at Thurston County data, is the data for Seattle itself, is that included in the Thurston County, or is there another entity that's responsible for data about the city itself? When you come to data.wa.gov, it's the state portal. So we have data at the state level. We don't have your city streets. We have the highways. You know, the state, it has data on what it's responsible for, and local governments are the ones who are responsible for a lot of the things that are right around you. So make sure that you're looking at your local governments, that you're looking at the state, that you're comparing it to other states. Just spend some time ask a lot of questions, talk to your librarians. You know, where else might there be data on this subject that really helps you get a full picture of the population, of all the people, all the things that are involved. Some of the small counties do publish their data on data.wa, but the larger ones, and some small ones, they might have it on their website still and not have it on data.wa. But don't think that just because you find Azotin County on data.wa that all the counties are there. There's just some small counties that publish on data.wa. Okay. All right, so what does a good data set look like? And some of you have put this in there, put comments about this already. I wonder if I can move this over here. There we go. Okay. So the connection to the public. You want to find a data set that shows that it's really invested in what the public wants. So here we've got this electric vehicle population data it's provided by Washington State Department of Licensing. This is a popular topic right now, all about electric vehicles. So this kind of shows that, oh, there's public interest in this, so it's being published. And then this is showing that the data is displayed in a few different ways. So we've got our vehicles by county, models by postal code. So you want data that shows that it's in response to public interest. Another characteristic is that it's machine readable. I'm sure you've run into this one. I needed to make a website that, I'm sorry, not a website, a spreadsheet that would deal with holidays, and the only place that I could find a list was this list published on a website. This is not machine readable. I'm sure somebody can spend some time writing a program to scrape this, but readily machine readable, that's the goal. We want to be able to just get it from the website. I had to copy all of this and paste it into Excel and split it on the spaces and turn it into this so that I could finally write a formula to get an actual date that I could use in my spreadsheet. So readily machine readable is the goal. When you find data that is not readily machine readable, go ahead and send a nice note to the public, to whoever published it, and say, hey, I really appreciate that you made this information public. It'd really help me if it were in a spreadsheet. Or hey, why don't you publish that on data.wa so I can get to it more easily. So what the opposite of that looks like is you have an export button, or you can link to it using an API. When you export it, you can bring it out by CSV, or in any format you really want to consume it in. So this is an example of what it looks like on data.wa. So we're able to export every single data set on data.wa has an export button and an API link, so that you can, the API link is going to be your ongoing link that constantly updates. Okay, what else have we got? A good data set is going to have good metadata. So it's going to have a nice description that doesn't have acronyms in it, tells you what the data set includes, the time period that it's published for, how often it's updated, give you a category, give you some tags that make sense, and it's going to have a license. So that was one thing that somebody was asking about, is how do I know what I can do with this data? So a good data set's going to have a license on it that lets you know that, hey, this is public domain. That means you can use it for anything. And I'll tell you that all data that is published on data.wa, for the most part, is public domain, although we're not requiring that people include the license yet. Change takes time. So we're moving to the step where we require that the license be published on the data set. For the most part, is public domain. However, there is a state law that lists of people cannot be used for commercial purposes. So whenever there's a list of people, for example, we have lists of contractors, I'm sorry, not contractors. We have lists of licensed contractors. So if you're trying to find a plumber, there's a list of licensed plumbers that lets you know their current license status. So you know if you're dealing with someone who's licensed and bonded and it is someone you want to hire to work on your house. So if something goes wrong, they're legally responsible for it. So that's a list of people, and we don't provide that for commercial purposes, which means that people shouldn't be sending marketing information to the list of people. That's against the law. So data sets like that are not public domain. I'm working on a special license for that. But for the most part, data that is open, that means that it is free for use for any purpose. And the only caveat for Washington State is that lists of people cannot be used for commercial purposes. Okay, so that's your attribution, and then your source link should take you to the website that's associated with the data set. More metadata is going to be definitions on every single column that's in the data set and letting you know what type it is. So this is just a good example of a data set that has lots of metadata around it. So I'm going to pop back over to the Jamboard, see what other interesting things we have over here. And I need to move that again. Okay. Oh, I went too far. We'll come back. Okay, so characteristics of bad data set. Places where where data was intentionally deleted from certain parts of it, which creates bias. Yeah, so that'd be a great place to contact the data set owner and find out, well, what happened here? And how can you get a complete set, or how would you adjust for that? Typically, the researchers are not trying to publish bad data. They're trying to publish what's useful. So yes, that would be worth a conversation with the publisher to see what happened. No clear data ontology. Yeah, you want to know, how does this all work? What's the relationship between this data and others and within? Missing data again, no metadata. Yeah, missing or poor metadata. Characteristics of good data sets. We've got clear documentation. We know what resources we have. Thorough documentation. Get the long format, so you get your observations in rows and your variables are in the columns. Yeah, you don't want to have to rearrange your data after you download it to be able to analyze it. You want to be able to just append new records. Yes. Great. PDFs are the worst. I 100% agree. Data is in a different format and collected differently. Yeah, that's another thing that we're moving towards, is standardizing data sets so that they're the same shape, so you can compare them to each other, and you've got a standard column to be able to compare on. Procedures to structure the data, to reproduce. Results and structures commonly used in reporting are both arcane and poorly documented. Yeah. So that's going to be a great place to talk to the data set owner and share a little bit more about what you need and help them improve that data set. And one thing you wish all data publishers did, if there's missing data, provide the reason. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when there's nulls or something removed, share why. Great. Okay, so another characteristic of a quality data set is timeliness. So this is one published by the Public Disclosure Commission. That's what PDC stands for, is Public Disclosure Commission. So they say that their posting frequency is that it's continuous. New records are added within 5 minutes of being filed with the Public Disclosure Commission. And it was February 13th when I took the screenshot. I should have updated this last night. Sorry about that. And it was up to date. So I took the screenshot for a presentation I did on the 14th. So they update it all the time. Now, not every data set needs to be published every 5 minutes. Some might be published every 2 years because the state runs on a 2-year cycle, a biennium. Some might be updated once a month. So whatever makes sense for that data set, being able to see by the date last updated, the date the data was last updated, making sure that coincides with the time that they say it's going to be published. That's good. Okay. Vetting for privacy. So this is a reason why some data might be missing, is for purpose of privacy. If you ask an agency for data, they do need to send it through a process to vet it for privacy if it's about people, and that takes time. So make sure you're planning for that in your research. Plan time for the agency to gather the data and send it through their privacy process. Know that the agency's mission is their primary purpose. There aren't people sitting on their thumbs waiting for a request for data to come in, except for our records people. Our records people they're not sitting on their thumbs, but their job is to get the records out. But those data scientists, the people who are creating the data and storing the data, they are doing their jobs, which is the agency mission. So, and ask for data while they, when we interviewed them, they passionately want to get this data out to people who will use it, and it takes time to do that. So make sure you're allowing time for that in your research for the people providing the data to have time to put it together. So if it's not already publicly available on a data site, on a data portal, or on the agency website, know that it takes some time to do that. And really request data that is not private whenever possible. Private data, it might have to go through an institutional review board, and you don't want it to endanger the people that you're trying to study. So really help the agency out with telling them how they can roll the data up in a way that is still providing a meaningful level of detail for you and won't re-identify individuals. Privacy is of utmost importance, so let's be careful about that. And anything that you can share with the agency to say, I don't need to know people's names, I don't need to know birth dates. And if you roll it up at the census block level, or whatever level makes sense for your research, tell them where they can roll it up to at a level that won't do re-identification, that won't re-identify individuals. Okay, and I want to say, any questions on that? If you have questions on that, please put it in the chat. Please share more. I'm excited. Excited to know what you think on all of this. Okay. I'm sure you've seen data sets like this. Got bad characters in it. There's nulls, -50 for a duration. How's that even possible? So this is just a good example of a bad data set that's going to take you a lot of time to clean up and work with. A good data set is going to give you a lot of different tools to work with. So the SpecanTrends.org site has some great data sets. This says more information, but then there's also a button to the right of that on how to download the data. So you can download the data set. They're not just showing you their interpretation of it and you have to deal with that, but they're also providing the data behind the visualization. All right, so now we get to best practices. So I mentioned before some places where it'd be really great for you to talk to the data set owner. Do reach out to the humans. This is an example in data.wa. Every data set is going to have a button that says contact dataset owner, and you can click that and it sends a message to the person who publishes the data. So if you have questions about, I noticed that this span of time is missing, or I noticed that there's null values in this column and I don't see anything in the metadata that explains them. Or I see this data set A and this data set AA, and they look really similar to me. What's different between them? Reach out, ask questions, give feedback, and be nice. It's always great to start your feedback with, hey, I really appreciate that you provided this. It's great that this is here. This is, give some kudos first. I'm sure that you appreciate that too. When people are asking you for something different, give some kudos first, and then ask for what you need. Ask for the documentation that you need. Let them know how they can make it be more useful. Smaller or poorer governments and different areas of even the state government that don't have a lot of money, they do have a lot of data to give, but they don't have the same capacity as the large agencies. So help them out. Do what you can to make it easy for them to help you. And then Kathleen and I are also here to help you out. So feel free to reach out to us. So dig in, be involved. That's one thing that we're encouraging our agencies to do, is to know the people who are using your data, talk to the community, get their feedback, make sure that your data sets are meeting their needs. For the long term, this is where I've got another question for you in the Jamboard. I'm curious about how long do you need data? So do you just download it once and you're done, or do you want to keep working with it? So if you need to keep working with it and you want updates all the time, try the API option. And I'm going to jump back over to data.wa and show you some options that are there. So I'm going to open this healthcare provider credential data set. And here I've got my API button, so I can click on that. And right here, this API docs, if I click on this, it creates a page that is specific to that data set. So it's got that database data set identifier in it. And then it has snippets of code in here for downloading this specific data set. So, and you can switch from JSON to CSV to GeoJSON, pick the different things that you need. It's got docs, you can use the copy to copy it. So every single data set in data.wa, you can use that API button. I'll show you again how you get here. So you click API, and then the API docs button on the left is going to give you a custom code page for how to create a solution that pulls that data. And then every time that data set gets updated, your solution gets the new data. So this is just a great thing to do. If that's something you need for a data set that is not on data.wa, that's a great place to communicate with whoever's publishing it and say, I would love to use this API thing. I saw it on data.wa. And just so you know, this is a free service to all of the state agencies. So the state agencies are able to publish their data here at no extra cost. My program pays for this site to exist. So don't think that you're asking them to spend money to put it here. You're just asking them to spend time, which is still very difficult to come by. But that's one thing to know. So yeah. So automating, if you're going to use it for a long time, automate with APIs. So that's a great option to look for at the data that you're working with. If you want to formalize the expectations of it, you can ask about a data sharing agreement. So a data sharing agreement is where the agency says they're going to provide this data, these data sets, these columns in the data, and at what frequency, by what method, at what quality level. So this data sharing agreement is something that would be an agreement between the two of you. And then if the agency needs to make a change to the system that produces that data, that agreement says they know who to notify to let know, hey, things are going to change, and give you a heads up that you may need to make some changes. Do expect some bumps along the way. These are all live systems that we're working with, so things happen. And do communicate regularly. Let the agency know that you're using their data, and just keep that relationship going so that as your needs change, you know who to reach out to. And if they have questions, they know to contact you. So I want to thank all the people who contributed to our data. Kathleen and I interviewed all of these people to get the information that we shared in this presentation. And if you want to reach out to Kathleen and me, you can email opendata@wa.gov. That comes to Kathleen and me. And our website is at data.wa.gov. Then I think, so hopefully we're going to be able to provide this presentation to you, and it's got links to all of the sites that I shared, and then there were some icons on slide 4, so I got all of that in there. I'm going to switch back over to the Jamboard and see if you've got any questions posted there. So let's move on. Yeah, okay. Are there any questions in the Zoom Q&A?
Well, thank you, Kathy. That was an interactive, fun, and super informative talk. I enjoyed it a lot, and thank you all for providing a lot of good information to Cathi. Please use the Q&A button to ask more questions if you have. I'm curious, Cathi, for example, you talked about Department of Ecology and their data sets, and I was curious about data ownership. Like, for example, a researcher goes and takes some observations and collects a data set. And then perhaps they are cleaning up the data set. They are the owner, or they pass it on to somebody and that somebody is the owner. So question is the person who's cleaning the data or, taking the observations, like who's the owner of the data set?
Yeah, so when you're on the data set, let's see if we can find it here. Like right here, we have this contact data set owner button. So who's that going to contact? When you email that, it emails who posts the data. And very often they'll have a distribution list set up that notifies all of the people who provide it, and then they're going to reach out to the most appropriate person to answer the question that you have. And then if for any reason you have more questions, or like you don't feel like you're getting to the right person, reach out to Kathleen and me, and we'll help you out. So you can always reach us as a backup option. But for the most part, the data set owners, they respond when people reach out this way. Yeah, I shouldn't even say for the most part. I haven't heard of anyone not getting answers when they're contacted this way.
Excellent. Thank you. That's very helpful for sure. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A box. But we could perhaps talk a little bit about, you mentioned the life cycle of the data set. Like, for example, there's a limit before, or a deadline, I'd say, for submitting data sets. Like going back to the ecology example, if I collect a data set as a site, I clean it up, is there a deadline for submission? Like, or I can sit on the data until I clean it up and then I submit it whenever I want? Like, is there a timeline that is connected to each of these data sets?
Great. Yeah, so that's going to be different per agency. So the Department of Ecology, which I think is here, they do have researchers that go out in the field, and I'm trying to remember a conversation that I had with a hydrogeologist several months ago for creating this presentation. So she shared the process that's used here, and yes, there is a deadline by which the people who collected the data need to publish it to their research portal. And the research portal they have here is it creates a, like, you can, I want to try to find the one that she showed me, and I'm going to do a bad job of finding it, I think. Let me see. No, I'm not going to find it off the top of my head. But there's one of the data sets here. When you visit it, you can type in a particular contaminant that you're interested in, or a particular measure that you're looking for. You can put the name in, and then put in the region of Washington State that you're interested in finding studies related to that contaminant. And it creates a big download for you, and it takes time for it to run because they have tons of data. And if you leave it too wide, you're actually going to crash the system. So make sure you're specifying as narrowly as you need for the data that you're pulling. Yeah, they have tons of data. Yeah, and then we also have large data sets on data.wa. Kathleen wanted me to mention that. So we have some that have millions of rows. It's going to tell you here, like this has 7 million rows. So we have some large data sets for you to work with here too.
Great,
Did
thank
I
you.
kind of get to what you were asking about the timeliness?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. We do have a question from Ronald. Thank you for your question. This is a very well done presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald.
I'm wondering what, if any, options there are for different levels of access rights for data housed on data.law.gov. Could an agency have an MOU requirements that allow authorized users to access more sensitive versions or data sets?
Yeah, great question. Data that's on data.wa.gov is going to be what we call category 1 data, which means it's public data, which means it doesn't include any personal information. It doesn't include any private data. It is data that can be shared widely and publicly. When you want the more sensitive data, that's where you need to contact the agency themselves and set up a data sharing agreement for that data that's more sensitive. And you'll set up a custom way to get that data. Just the data.wa.gov is not secure to the degree at which we'd be, it's not for that purpose. It's not for the purpose of sharing sensitive data. The state of Washington now has a state chief data officer as of March, and so we'll be getting more statewide data management in place of our more sensitive data. And so there may be a different answer to that question in the future. And when I say in the future, I'm talking on the government timeline. So we're talking years. So there will be a different answer in the future. But for right now, to get more sensitive data, you need to set up an agreement with the agency that has the data.
All right. We're at the time, so thank you for your talk today and for showing us cool stuff online. And we'll see you next time.